All right, and welcome back to another episode of Shadow the Apple. It has been a little bit, but we are back to bring you some more content for New York sports. And let me just tell you, man, I think this week was genuinely one of the greatest weeks in the history of New York City, Ryan.
Yeah, I don't think that's a crazy claim to make. A lot has happened, but very importantly, your New York Knicks.
Yeah, we are. I mean, I already bought the merch. I'm gonna probably go down so you can see. But I went to Dick's right away and got the championship shirt the morning of, and I caught the hat. So, and which apparently is impossible to get. So, um, but yeah, the New York Knicks are NBA champions, Ryan. They are the first team in New York City to win a championship since the New York Giants all the way back in 2012, 2013. So it has been a very long time, but the New York Knicks have finally won an NBA championship after 53 years. They beat the Spurs in five. They played some super duper clutch games. I think the last time we did an episode, it was after game two. So we missed game three, missed game four, game five. Um, we didn't do episode in the week. It's been kind of hard to do episodes. I feel like during the week I've had a lot. But
Hmm.
the show must go on, and we'll talk about it because I mean, it was just a whole experience. I think this Knicks finals experience was just a whole different something I've never really experienced before.
Yeah, I mean, like we were talking about in the last episode, the way it affected the city and obviously the fan base, huge impact on everything. Yeah, it's a crazy environment. Some interesting stuff happened during the celebrations, but we don't have to talk about the bad stuff. Obviously, keep with the positives. That's what it's about.
Well, yeah, we could talk about. Well, first and foremost, I wanted to get a taste of the Knicks experience, so I ended up going to Central Park at Woman Rink to go to one of the watch parties. After game two, I had crazy FOMO. I was just like, I need to go see this. Yeah, Luke, I do agree. Ryan does need to use his camera. So, I went to Central Park. It was a little bit of a mess getting back. I ended up missing my train, the last train that was going to Rahway, so that sucked. Um, but overall, it was worth the experience. I went with my boy. He saved me a spot at on the line, and we were able to go and just enjoy the experience. There was vendors. Knicks fans were rowdy. It was in this big giant setup, obviously on Woolman Rink. So I mean, it was a great time. It was a great time to be in the city. The vibes were great. Unfortunately, they lost. Whether you want to blame them on the team or somebody else that was at the game, they ended up losing. But then game four, probably the defining game in this series, and I think mentally, I don't think the Spurs were ever going to come back after blowing a 29-point lead, Ryan.
Yeah, the biggest comeback in NBA Finals history. I mean, that's rough. Going down three to one. Um, of course they had home court advantage, but it wasn't enough. It was mostly Knicks fans there anyway, and they got back to San Antonio.
Yeah, and that's the craziest part. And I mean, I was hoping they finished the job on Saturday, but I wouldn't have been surprised if they lost on Saturday, just because I was like, there's no way the Spurs are going to lose all their home games in the finals, and which they did. They were down as much as 14 in the fourth quarter to start, and the Knicks just find a way. They weren't shooting that well at the beginning, and the Knicks, if you're being honest, the Knicks never actually started hot in any of these games. Um, None of these games they started well. But I had a lot of people that I knew personally. My cousin was in the city. He got to see people on top of buses. They're taking pieces of cars. They're burning stuff. They're throwing like smoke bombs. I mean, that is pretty crazy. Um, I feel like it's only been in certain parts. So, and I ended up taking the subway because when they lost, I knew something was gonna happen, and people were fighting and ripping people's jerseys. That I don't really care for. That's really stupid. Like I expect more of I expect more of what I saw videos of when they won games 1 and 2 when they were shooting bubbles in the air and people were just having fun playing music. They're messing with the robot. I don't know if you've seen that. Luke, I agree with both your comments. And yeah, I will. Well, Luke, I will be at the parade. So I don't know if Ryan, if you want to end up pulling up. I mean, if you do, I'm gonna end up going with my dad regardless. I feel like Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see about that. I don't know. Probably not. I have a feeling some rough stuff's gonna go on there, but hopefully security's tight.
Yeah, but yeah. So I mean, it was incredible to watch. But to put in perspective, I mean, I woke up the next morning and it really like didn't like hit me until like that morning, like because like it's one because I think a lot of I was talking to my friend about this and I think a lot of people just kind of had the idea in their head that the Knicks just were never going to win a championship, even if they got close, they just were they were gonna find a way to lose. I think there was just kind of like that omen with the Mets. Sorry, not with the Mets, but the Knicks. That they just were never gonna win a championship, even if they were just gonna find some way to choke. But and really until the end, I feel like there were doubters from the end. But at the end of the day, the Knicks are champs and they got their third championship, and I think it's gonna be really special. On Thursday, the parade's gonna be great. Um, Knicks players have already started celebrating. I don't know if you know Jose Alvarado, but he won his NBA championship and then was at the PR parade the next day in New York. So really just a recap of all the great things that have been going on in New York. And then Mikal Bridges was on IG Live today, just being pretty silly.
Yeah,
Definitely had
I also
two
saw
great.
known New York winner Jazz Chisholm Jr. was also with the Knicks celebrating last night
I didn't
for
know
whatever
that.
reason. Yeah, saw some pictures. I don't know. I mean,
Yeah, I
whatever.
mean they're the team is celebrating and rightly so. I mean this team was locked in. I mean, I think when you were going to talk about this team, I mean, personally, I was thinking about this and I'm like, I'm going to remember this for the rest of my life. Like, you know, I've never seen any of my teams win a championship. Like I've seen my teams get close and those teams were fun, but they never won it at all. Like to have one of my teams actually win it all, it's great. I think I'm going to be talking about this team for a long time. This is probably going to be my favorite sports team I've ever watched because I mean, this was a Knicks championship team, and it's the first championship I've seen for a while. Because I mean I've been a Knicks fan forever, so to see it happen actually is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's well, like you said, it's the first one in New York since the Giants in 2012. So it's been a long time. Um, pretty pretty impressive. Like you were mentioning too, we also talked about this in a past episode. People had them as the underdogs in almost every series they played, which was quite insane.
Yeah, they were. I could probably understand. Probably the Spurs. I mean they took that. The Thunder were the favorites, and I think a lot of people thought the Western Conference Finals was going to be the NBA Finals. Like I think a lot of people thought it was going to be like a situation in the NFL where the Seahawks and Rams kind of had the playoff game of the year, and whoever won that game was just going to win the Super Bowl because everybody knows the Patriots were not going to win the Super Bowl. They were just so mid. So, but you know what? 2026. I mean, I guess anything can happen, bro. I mean, Sam Darnold won a Super Bowl. Indiana football won a national championship. The Knicks won a championship. I mean, anything's possible.
Yeah, I mean, anything is possible. Maybe we'll get a Subway Series and a World Series. You know, that wouldn't be the craziest thing to happen.
That I feel like that'd be horrible. Like that'd be so stressful.
It would be very entertaining
I
for the
don't think
podcast,
I
though.
think if the Mets lost that, I don't think I'd do the podcast for like a week. I would need some time to
People
cope.
need to hear your opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I was there for 2015, so I've seen them lose a World Series. And we've both seen our teams lose a World Series, right?
Hmm.
So we've both been there. 9 years
Yeah,
apart.
yeah,
So yeah, but it's a great time. Like I'm just gonna, if you're a Knicks fan right now, just enjoy every second of this because we haven't had a repeat champion in the NBA since 2018. So, we've had a new champion every year, and you really just never know you're gonna get back. There's a lot of teams that thought we're gonna be dynasties. A lot of people thought the Bucks were gonna win multiple championships. A lot of people thought the Celtics were gonna win multiple championships. A lot of people thought the Thunder was gonna go back to back, and every I think almost every year they've tried to narrate a new dynasty in the NBA, and there's just been a new winner every year. So I don't know if we're gonna be back, which is why I really wanted them to win it this year. So, and I think the Spurs will be fine. I think the Spurs are a really young team. I think that was probably their only weakness in this series. I mean, they were young and the lights were too bright for them. If we're just being honest, there were players like De'Aaron Fox who went ice cold in that entire series. Not entire series, but in the clutch when it mattered most in games 4 and game 5. Dylan Harper was probably the only. Shout out to Dylan Harper, New Jersey, but he's the only one that really didn't play like he was scared to attack the Knicks and try to hit some big shots in the clutch.
Yeah, like you just said, with you don't know if they'll be back next year. Definitely just take this in, take some time to celebrate it because, like you said, you don't know. It's been such a long time coming. Finally happened, and yeah, it's so hard to have a dynasty in sports these days. I mean, the last real dynasty I would say that we saw was probably. I mean, you can't even count the Astros. So
What
I would say the
dynasty in
Dodgers right
sports?
now. Not in sports. I was referring to baseball, but the Dodgers
Okay.
have back to back. If you want to go back to 2020, I guess maybe. But yeah, I mean, it's really hard. It's really hard to go back to back specifically. The
Yeah,
last time we've seen that really were the Dodgers now and the Chiefs. It's tough.
yeah, and with the Knicks, the Knicks, they're the first team ever to win the double. They're the first team to win an NBA Cup and an NBA championship in the same year. So they've done both. And there's been a little debate on if they should hang the banner or not. I think they should. I thought they should have hung the banner back in December. But now that we won both championships, I think you should have a banner with both of them, because that's history. There's never been a team that has won it both competitions, both major competitions in basketball where it mattered most.
I think they should just have just the NBA Finals. I feel like the NBA Cup is not nearly as important or as prestigious, but I mean,
I
somewhere they can have something for it. But
I think if they didn't win it, I think they shouldn't have done it. But now that we've won both, it's like I think it's history. Like it's a very historic it's a very historic thing to do. I mean, it's never been done before. So, I mean, I personally think they should do. Hopefully, they will. We'll see what happens. I mean, this team was awesome. This team was just awesome. Jalen Brunson with 45 points to close it out from OG Anunoby's tip in, to get the Knicks on a 1-point lead. This team was incredible. I mean, they're going to talk about this team for a long, long time. And even if they do, I don't know if they will. I really don't know. But even if they do win another championships, I don't think anything will beat this one, because this one broke a 53-year drought. I mean, the Knicks have had just so much drama and turmoil. They've lost so many brutal ways. I mean, they lost in Game 7 in '94 when they had John Starks and Patrick Ewing. They got swept in '99. In 2000, they had a chance to beat the Heat in the series, and then like all their players got suspended. Then they were irrelevant for a really long time. Then they had the 2 years with Melo, were irrelevant again for a while. And then times have changed. I think Jalen Brunson, will go down as probably the second best Knick of all time, and it might be a debate if he somehow gets another ring.
yeah, that's definitely a fair point. Yeah, I mean, we have to see. Like I was saying before, we have to see what happens next year. But for now, we should definitely just enjoy it because it took a long time, and
Yeah.
you never know. It could take that long until you get the next one.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you watched the side talk video, but I mean, it was just incredible. I mean, and the Knicks, you knew the Knicks were the team of destiny when they broke that curse. So I don't know if you know about the curse of this YouTube channel, but every time they've made a video, the Knicks have lost immediately. They did it after they lost Game 5, so that one kind of gets a pass. And they made another video after they won a double overtime season opener against the Boston Celtics, which turned out to be a really probably their only bad season this decade. 21-22. So then after that, they made a video after the Knicks won Game 5 against the Miami Heat in 2023, and then they went up. They got a game. Went back to Miami. It was Game 6, down 3-2. Lost the next game immediately. I don't. Then they made one when they beat the Sixers, and then they lost the series to the Pacers. The next series afterwards. And then they made another video after they beat the Celtics. Then they lost against the Pacers. They made another video after they beat the Cavs. And I was like, damn, all right, well, let's see if they could finally break this curse. And they did. So they broke the side talk curse. Every time they've made a video, they've lost the next series. So that just shows that this team was not defying the odds. And they also beat the extender, Scott Foster. So, I mean, if you don't know who that is, Scott Foster is a referee who has been known to extend series, and the series didn't extend, obviously. So I mean,
yeah, the refereeing, that's also a conversation we could have.
Yeah, man,
that was crazy.
And it's also crazy to see how Victor Wembanyama killed his PR in a series, one series. I mean, when you consider all the positive PR he got from beating the Thunder, him ruining it the next series. And I mean, he wasn't necessarily bad against the Knicks. In fact, he was pretty good, but the Knicks held him. He never dominated like how he dominated the Thunder. And I mean, granted, it's because the Knicks have people to defend him, unlike the Thunder. But they held the Spurs in check, and they let guys, they didn't let Wemby beat them. They let other people beat them.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember we discussed that too. We were discussing. You were saying what you think their plan would be against Wemby, what they did in the NBA Cup, and other times they faced them. So, I mean, it obviously worked out. Look where we're at now.
Yeah, and I mean the Knicks needed to. I mean, they needed to hit threes. First and foremost, they had to, Wemby is a monster in the paint, and guys like Josh Hart and Jose Alvarado, they can't just drive to the bucket like how they would in a regular series because Victor is just waiting in the paint. So, they had to make threes. And I mean, that was a big reason why they made that comeback in Game 4, when they hit all those threes to end the game, and they slowly but surely came back. I think this team really just defied the odds. When they made that comeback, I'm a pretty emotional fan when it comes, like, I'll cheer and I'll scream, and I'm usually pretty vocal, but when they made that comeback, I was speechless. I had nothing to say. Both those wins, Game 4 and Game 5, had me shook, because I've never seen a team just do that on a consistent basis. To win back-to-back games when you're down most of the game and then still find a way to win, it's surreal. It really just felt like the destiny was on the Knicks side. It really did.
A lot of what we're saying goes back to. You can continue.
And sorry to cut you off, but they had the talent to do so. I mean, this team was super well constructed. I mean, this team was built from the ground up. They started with Julius Randle and Tom Thibodeau, and they used their draft picks to draft some solid guys, and then used those players to bring in better ones. So they slowly but surely were building a team. And I want to give a big shout out to those 2020, 2021 Knicks, because, before that, I was definitely a Knicks fan, but I never truly really die hard, was truly will watch them every single day. I was watching the Knicks, but the team sucked. They were really hard to watch towards the end of the 2010s. But that 2020 team really gave Knicks fans hope that this team could really be consistently good again. And, there was hope in New York after that season. So, and Tibbs, big shout out to Tom Thibodeau. Obviously Mike Brown is the coach now, and he got the job done. But, he's the one that built the team. if you know anything about the Warriors, he was their Mark Jackson to their Steve Kerr. Like Mark Jackson helped bring the Warriors out of the trenches, and then Steve Kerr was able to win all the championships. But Thibodeau and Randall definitely get that credit because they definitely brought the Knicks out of irrelevancy. So and it got me truly like a true Knicks fan. So yeah. Also, big shout outs to all the other role players I mentioned. Like I was posting crazy. Um, I could go on and on about all the role players and all the players I saw back in 2015, 2016, Kyle Quinn. But we got more to talk about. So I'll leave it at that. The Knicks are your 2026 NBA champions. And I'll let you know about the parade. I'll probably talk about that in our next episode.
Yeah, well, I mean, a big chunk of this was obviously going to be about the Knicks. That's a huge story. Obviously we're baseball first, but New York sports, it's quite literally in the name. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, it's incredible. I think it's pretty cool that the not even the Knicks drought, but the New York drought ended. And of course, we got to show some respect to the other teams who have won in New York. But we're talking about like the big four sports and leagues.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool that we get to talk about it on here. This is our first year doing this, so
yeah, man. Like it's our first year doing this podcast. Like this doesn't happen a lot, Like like I said, we haven't seen New York win a championship in a really long time. So I mean, the fact that we got a chance to talk about it and cover it as it was going on. I mean, it was an exciting time, man. I'm gonna remember this run for a really, really long time. This team was special. This team was a very special team, and when you consider, I mean, this team was down 2-1 to the Hawks. The Hawks after that. So like they lost one game the rest of the playoff run. The Cavs, the Sixers, and the Spurs had one win combining against the Knicks. And the Hawks had two, and they were up against us on the series. Big shout out to the Hawks for waking the Knicks up and realizing that they needed to win an NBA championship this year. I'm happy. I'm really happy for a lot of the Knicks that helped out on this run, that maybe weren't getting minutes towards the end. This team was a very, 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 very fun team, and they're probably my favorite team of all time. I mean, if we're just being honest, like I think the only way they get overthrown is if the Mets ever decide they want to be serious and win a World Series. But this team will probably go down as my favorite team of all time. I mean, they're my first championship.
Yeah, and this is what I was going to say before. I just kind of came back to what you just said. Like after the Hawks series, we were talking also about how locked in the team was. They wouldn't answer any silly questions. They were so serious. Kept saying the job's not finished. Like they were, like it also goes back to the Spurs being a younger team. The Knicks were just locked in the whole time, and they had one goal, and it's over with.
Yeah, they had one goal. They weren't satisfied until the very end, and they knew this was their chance. I mean, when you consider how good the East. When you consider how good the East will be next year,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think it was win now or go home, dude. There's good, and it's not gonna be easy next year. It's not gonna be easy, but for now, we're the Knicks fans and me and Clear get to celebrate. I really can't wait for the parade. It's gonna be the Knicks first ticket taper parade because the last two times they actually didn't have it for I forget there was a specific reason. But it's the first time ever that they're going to have that. And we haven't had a parade in New York City in a really long time. So I was actually at the last parade in New York City when the U.S. women's national team won the World Cup. So, and like I didn't really have a connection to that team. Like I don't really watch women's soccer, but I remember having a conversation with somebody and he was like, enjoy this because I don't know if you're ever going to see any of your teams have a parade anytime soon. And yeah, he was right. I mean, it took 7 years because that was 2019. But I mean, you know what, bro? It was worth the wait. It really was.
Yeah, I was just going to say, definitely worth the wait.
All this, it builds character. It does build character as a fan. When I remember being a kid, and everyone else were Warriors fans or Cavs fans. It was one or the other. Me and like Anthony Garofalo were like the only people that were Knicks fans. So we stayed loyal, and it's paid off.
Yeah, I can 100% vouch for you. I remember, 10 years ago. Obviously, you've always been a huge Knicks, Mets, and Jets fan. Never, no matter how bad the teams have been. Obviously, you've always been a fan. I remember we used to have a Knicks drawstring bag like 8 years ago, whatever.
I used to
We
carry
used to have
that
it every
shit
day.
everywhere, bro. I used to wear. I mean that I just found my black Knicks hoodie. I would wear that every day to work. No matter what, dude. Like I always would rock that Knicks hoodie because it was all black. So that my job, you had to wear all black. But that Knicks hoodie would always come in clutch because it would always be cold when the doors would open in that gym, dude. So, yeah, man. Like I'm really excited. I can't wait for the parade. Um, I can't wait to talk about it on this podcast. There's going to be a lot. I hope there's a lot. Big shout outs to Dan Housing. He should probably
Of
get his own
course,
float.
yeah, he deserves it for sure.
Do you
He's
think it
the
was a
MVP in my eyes.
Do you think it was a coincidence? Like, it is pretty insane how he cursed the Knicks. They go down 2-1. He uncurses them, and they don't lose until Game 3 of the NBA Finals.
Yeah, I in the beginning I would have said it was a coincidence. It's hard to say that now, especially after last night. The Canes won the Stanley Cup after he uncursed them. So I really don't know.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible. I mean, they're definitely gonna do something with Saturday night main event at the Garden next month. They're
Right?
definitely gonna do
Yeah,
some kind of bit. Jalen Brunson's been on WWE television. I don't know if you remember that.
I do. Yeah, him and Halliburton, they got in the ring together.
Yeah, and speaking of the Halaban, um, I I was thinking about this, and I saw the clip pull up on my feed the day after they won the championship of him hitting the shot, and for the first time in my life, I actually didn't skip over it because I knew it wasn't gonna piss me off. Like I could finally like that. Like there's moments in Knicks history, like I've seen some terrible. Like that was probably one of the worst Knicks losses I've seen. That doesn't make me angry anymore. And that's an amazing feeling.
Yeah, yeah.
Because
That was definitely a very rough. Like that's one of the plays you just look at. One of the games you just don't want to think about. You just stare in silence and you just don't want to talk about it.
yeah,
So, luckily, it didn't have to sit for that long. It was only a year.
yeah, dude. I mean, I remember like that game ending, and like I couldn't fall asleep. Like I couldn't sleep for like maybe like a good hour and a half because I genuinely was just like, what the fuck did I just watch? I'm like, how did that happen? Well,
Yeah,
you know what, bro? It don't matter. And they didn't even win a championship. We won a championship. So
yeah,
that's all that matters, bro. That the Knicks are the NBA championships.
that's a nice looking hat.
And you know what? Jalen Brunson, he's probably not watching this podcast, but it's Pride Month. So I'm going to leave it at that. I'm so happy that the New York Knicks are 2026 NBA champions. This will go down as a team that I'm going to remember for the rest of my life, and I'm going to enjoy this time for a while. This is truly like one of the most fun, enjoyable times I've had in sports and in New York City in general. Like just being in the city, those last 2 days, those 2 days, last Monday and last Tuesday were incredible. It was just such a fun time to be in the city. When I was at the Mets game on Tuesday, which we'll talk about now, you had Knicks fans screaming Knicks in 5. You had half the stadium was filled with Knicks jerseys, man. So, but we could definitely, with this and the World Cup going on, I can't lie, it has been pretty hard to keep up with the Mets and the Yankees. But obviously the show must go on. So we'll talk about the Mets and the Yankees right now. And I'll start with the Mets this time. Let's switch it up a bit. We'll start with the Mets. But they ended up actually winning a series I went to before we talk about the series. I went to the Cardinals series, which we didn't talk about. I'm not really going to talk about it because they just got their asses whooped. And the game I went to, they got their asses whooped because 5 inning Freddie was terrible, and the Mets couldn't hit a baseball, and it sucked. And I had more fun eating food at City Field. And you know what? The City Field food. I just want to give a big shout out to all the vendors and all the food that are at City Field because it really does distract you from the horrible baseball that you have to watch when going to Mets games.
Yeah, I mean, it could be one of the only redeeming qualities that they got right now.
Yeah, I had General So's chicken, which is one of the most well known spots um at City Field. It comes with mac and cheese balls and sesame chicken. Shit is amazing. It's so good. I've never genuinely. I always try to get something different every time I go to City Field. So, you know, it was great to eat something as good as that. Unfortunately, the game was super duper boring. They did nothing the whole game. It just sucked. It really sucked. The closest they got to scoring anything was a Marcus Simeon pop out. But Freddie Peralta is just so mediocre. Like he's just such a mediocre pitcher. And he pitched a lot better on Sunday, but he's just like I hate him. Like I'll never understand the love that Mets fans were giving him before the season started. Like he's just not that good. He's not a bad pitcher, but he's just not that good.
We talked about it. I think one of the last episodes as well. He hasn't been the ace the Mets thought they were trading for so far.
Yeah, nah, that's a fact. They haven't, and I don't know what, like if you look back on his stats, like he doesn't really have ace numbers, so I really don't even know what the Mets were really cooking. We really traded Sprout and Jet Williams for him, dude. Like, and we're not even gonna extend him. He wants Max Fried money. So, anyways, the Mets somehow. So they've been 500 the whole month. They won a series. They've lost a series. They've lost a series. They won a series. They lost a series, and now they've won a series. So they're 2-2 in series so far. We didn't talk about June 12th. So June 12th is now an infamous day in Mets history these last 3 years. So now so to put you back in the Mets timeline in 2024. June 12th was the day Grimace threw out the first pitch. And Grimace saved our Chud lives and got us to the NLDS. And then a year later, Pete Alonso throws a blooper to Kodai Senga, and he gets hurt trying to catch the ball. And then literally from that point on, the Mets went on a historic collapse in 2025. So now, I mean, I guess so. Friday was Naruto night, so they had Mr. Met, with the whole gear. I don't know if you've ever watched Naruto, but they had him doing the run. You remember in middle school when kids used to do the run where they had like their hands in their back. About
I've never watched it, but I know what you're talking about.
Yeah, so it was pretty cool. I mean, it was pretty packed. I mean, a lot of people cared for Naruto night. So I'm not a big Naruto fan. It's way too long as an anime. But yeah, they ended up getting the win. So I'm gonna recap basically what happened in the game. Bo Bichette had a really, really good game. This was the Bo Bichette game, with a homer in the first, and then Juan Soto going back to back. So the Mets get a quick 2-1 lead against Spencer Strider, who the Mets have had his number for the most part. Like really since he was a rookie, they've pitched pretty well against Spencer Strider. And then the Dominic Smith gets the Braves back in it with an RBI, who's actually had a really good year for the Braves. Even though it's the Braves, definitely I still give shots to my boy Dom. Was a great Met. Nolan McLean escapes bases loaded jam. Mike Yastrzemski tied the game, but then everything changed, and the Mets never lost the lead back when Bo Bichette hit a grand slam to hit Spencer Strider to make it a 6-2 bowl game. So Bo Bichette with a really good game, Probably his best hitting performance all year as a Met, Ryan.
Yeah, I mean, again, another thing we were talking about in the past that has um, continued on. Well, I guess this one hasn't continued. Other trends did continue. This one didn't continue. He, yeah, he has not been the player the Mets thought they were getting so far. The average hasn't been up there. I watched him for so long on the Blue Jays, so I know the kind of player he is. Pesky guy, puts the ball in play, does what it takes. He got to run across. He can hit for power if he needs. He hasn't really been doing that much for the Mets. He looked like a shell of himself, but recently, and especially in the last series, started to look like the player they're paying so much money to.
Yeah, there was a stat line I saw on Twitter with Bo Bichette. He's in his last 10 games, he's batting 390, 16 hits, 3 home runs, 12 RBIs with a 1.104 OPS. So he's another guy who's been actually starting to play pretty well. They, we talked about Marcus Semien. We talked about him starting to play well again, and now we're seeing Bo Bichette. So now the veterans are starting. We're starting to finally see some consistency from the free agent signings and trades that the Mets have made, which is it's a good sign. I don't
It's
think
another thing we talked about too.
yeah, and I was really thinking about this, and I really don't think. I mean, the Mets are capable of beating good teams. I feel like we can agree with that. I mean, they took series now against Atlanta and New York. So they've beaten good teams before. Like they definitely can. Um, so I mean, they're definitely showing at least some kind of life and some kind of flashes of what they could be. If they're just more consistent. I mean, they're 500 right now in series and they're 500 in June. So I mean, you got to do better than that. But I mean, I guess it's better than what we were watching, just 2 months ago. It wasn't that long ago when the Mets got swept by the Rockies and they were on pace for the worst Mets record since the expansion Mets, which was crazy. The first on Apple TV, broadcaster for Apple TV, Wayne Randazza, who used to be the Mets radio commentator with Howie Rose. Bo Bichette is the first time in the history the Mets have had back-to-back homers in the first inning 2 games in a row. And then Bo Bichette is the first Met to homer in each of the first 2 innings of a game on multiple occasions. And they ended up getting Spencer Strider out of the game. Apparently, he left with an injury. He only had 68 pitches. And then after that, the Mets bended, but they didn't break. Eli White, Ozzie Albies had RBIs, but they got the job. Brazabon, Brooks Whaley, Devin Williams got the save. Noel McLean, 4.0 innings, 2 runs on 3 hits. He got a little bit of a jam early in the game. But overall, the Mets got the job done. And, they take game 1 against the Braves. I mean, when you consider 1, how bad the Mets have been, 2, how good the Braves have been, and then 3, the Mets' history against the Braves, it's pretty impressive that they actually ended up winning this first game.
Yeah. Especially with the Braves being in first place in the East, to see the Mets play well against them. It's the first time they played this year, right?
Yeah, this was actually the first time they played, which is really rare. I mean, they kind of waited a bit for the Mets to finally match up with them, so they're probably going to be playing them a lot more down the stretch. So, but yeah, this was literally their first series against the Braves.
Yeah, so to see the Mets play against them for the first time this year. Of course, the Mets are playing better. Probably the best baseball they've played all year, I would say, has been this month. So,
yeah, and you got Alvarez back as well.
Yeah, it's a great time for that matchup. It's cool to see them obviously take the series against the first place team. Try and get back into it. Like we said, just keep winning games, keep winning series. Try to get one series at a time, and see where you end up come the All-Star break and trade deadline.
Yeah, I think if you're the Mets right now, I think you're looking to be, I think at worst 3 games under 500, and then probably at best like a few games over 500 by the end of this month. I think if they want to give themselves a chance, and not start trading people, because I think time's ticking. I mean we've been talking about that for a bit. Time's ticking, and I think if you're the Mets right now, it's win now. I think these players know that they have to win now, or they're where they're playing could be in jeopardy.
So I was going to say this, as this is what I think, but I kind of want to ask you, since you're the Mets fan. say come the trade deadline, there's like 2 days for the deadline. The Mets are within 5 games of a wild card spot. Would you trade away? Would you buy, or would you just stay the same?
I definitely wouldn't stay the same. I think you got to sell or buy, one or the other.
Mm-hmm.
I've seen the Mets. If you go, I mean, it's crazy that it was 7 years ago, but if you go back to 2019, the Mets didn't do too well. And they kind of were around 500 going out of the All-Star break, and it was looking like they were going to sell, but then they like pretty much right out the All-Star break, so that's like what, the middle of July.
This year it's, I believe, like August 2nd or 1st.
Okay, yeah. So the All-Star break, like out like the first
Oh, the
game,
All-Star break. Oh yeah, they're in deadline.
first
Oh,
game,
the
second
All-Star
half of
break.
the year.
Yeah, it's usually mid-late July.
Yeah, so they lose those. They lost 2 games against the Marlins, and then after that, they went on a pretty wild run. They beat teams that they needed to beat, and they went from sellers to buyers in the span of a week. And they were probably maybe only a few games out of the second wild card at that time. Unfortunately, that team, really fun Mets team, did end up going on a run. It's crazy because they actually played really well against the Nationals that year and they ended up winning the World Series. But I think there could be a scenario like that, though. Bringing it back to this year, like I could see a scenario like that where they just need a little run, a little stretch to be above 500, be a few games up, and then if they stay consistent, they play 500 ball after that. The Mets just really need a stretch where they're playing really well. They got to knock off. They haven't really had a really true winning streak this year. I think if you get to that point, you definitely could start considering buying. I would want to see the Mets take a route like in 2024 where instead of getting multiple big pieces like they kind of did last year, they were getting multiple small pieces. Like in 2024, they traded for Ryan Stanek, they traded for Jesse Winker. Paul Blackburn was not bad actually when he first got traded to the Mets. They made multiple small moves, and it ended up like boosting up the team in the long run, and got them all the way to the NLCS. So, speaking of that, we'll get back into the second game. So Mets ended up losing that game, but Martin Perez kept the Mets in check. It was pretty good for the Braves. 5 innings pitched, 4 Ks, no runs. Only run that was scored was a Vientos RBI single. But big story out of this was that Sean Manaea ended up pitching 6 innings for the first time since the NLDS Game 3, which some lore about me that we rather have talked about the podcast. I want to do an episode eventually at one point talking about some of my favorite games I went to. But I ended up going to NLDS Game 3, and Sean Manaea was elite in that game. But obviously, that was a while ago, and he hasn't even gotten close to that until last weekend. So let's talk about him. I mean, we've talked a lot about how he's struggled. He hasn't looked the same. His speed has been off. His velocity's been off. But, slowly but surely, Sean Manaea is kind of getting back to just even remotely close to what he had in 2024.
Yeah, I mean, if the Mets were to be in a situation like that, go forward, I think him and some other veterans on the pitching staff too would have to, improve, including Peralta. We'd have to see a lot. I mean, the Mets have a lot of work to get to that situation, but I could see Manaea being a big part of a run if they were to go on one.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason why the 2024 Mets were as successful as they did because the pitching was good. Koze, obviously the lineup was pretty balanced, but the pitching really helped them out in the long run. Whether it was David Peterson, whether it was Sevy, whether it was Quintana, and then there was Sean Manaea. There was a point, like I think at some point every year, where there was one pitcher who was pitching better than the rest. At the first part of the year, it was Sevy who was their best pitcher. Then it was definitely Manaea for a big chunk of the season, and then Peterson was really like their anchor in that lineup, in that pitching lineup. So, but what can you really do? The Martin Perez and the Braves were pitched really well. It was a really good pitching performance by the Braves. So, but they end up winning the series. So Sunday was a pretty interesting day for the Mets. You had Dom Smith sacrifice fly, but then the Mets answered right back with a Jared Young single. AJ Ewing had a double, and the Mets got right back into it with Brett Beatty getting an RBI. So it's 4-1. AJ Ewing was one hit away from a cycle, had a home run, a double, and a single. Marcus Semien had his 9th home run, and Michael Harris just missing it. Juan Soto, Brett Beatty recorded 2 hits and 2 walks. The fourth set of Mets to do that this year. And then Freddie Peralta with a much better performance. 5-inning Freddie, as I like to call him, goes 5 innings, 1 run, and 4 hits on 2 strikeouts.
Yeah, so like we were mentioning earlier, nice series win for the Mets. Like to see a lot of the improvements you've been seeing continue. It's kind of a different story. I feel like when you compare both teams, the Mets, I mean, both teams I would say had like potential going into this year. I would say the Yankees more so than the Mets, but
yeah,
I mean they both had moves in the last few years to help them. They both made more moves this offseason, and both teams looked, they could at least make the playoffs. The Yankees are dealing with a lot of injuries and trying to just stay afloat, stay in there, which they've been doing a great job at. And, of course, the Mets are also dealing with injuries, but they're obviously farther out. But, yeah. I mean, a run would be nice, and we keep saying a lot of these guys would be a big part of it.
I think if you're the Mets right now, you got to win series. You got to win consistent series. You can't afford to win a series and then lose all your progress right away. Just it's like they're kind of just in the middle right here. When it's in this month. I think if you're the Mets, you need to hang on. I think you got to look at it as you're getting Lindor back. You're getting players back as the season will progress. You got to look at it like that. You need to stay afloat, and you need to have a run. I think there's got to be a point where you got to say, hey, we need to knock down 5-6 wins. We gotta obviously look at it one game at a time, but we have to knock these wins down and then try to stay afloat and go from there, because that's basically where the Mets are at right now. You can't, it's good that they're winning series and they're staying afloat. They're playing a lot better than they've played the last 2 months, but it's not enough, if we're being honest. And that's just my opinion. So last thing I really want to talk about with the Mets is that, so last Sunday it was Carson Bench who had a great game, and then this Sunday our next rookie was AJ Ewing. So AJ Ewing looked really good. So it's nice to see another prospect start to develop more as the season progresses.
Yeah, that's another key importance for this team. If they want to do something, we mentioned also the young guys have to take their steps forward. Obviously, there's Ewing and Benj, other guys who could make an impact, but also you'll get players who you still consider young players, but they're not rookies anymore, like Beatty, Alvarez. He's been hurt, but yeah, I mean, these are guys you have to really see start producing more and bringing more to the team for the time being, especially while you're dealing with the injuries.
Yeah, it's nice to have Alvarez back. I'm happy to see Alvarez back on the Mets. And like I said, like now that they're getting pieces back, I think that's how you got to look at it. You're think of it as like you're going to get better. Your team is going to start improving, and one game at a time. They got to slowly build it up. So, but yeah, that's pretty much it for me when it comes to the Mets. They're going to go on and play the Reds to the next series. You want my opinion? Just win the series. They need to win. They need to knock down multiple series. We need to see some kind of improvement. And we need to see a streak found the Mets right now. I think you gotta knock some games down and be in striking distance of being 500. I think that's where you gotta look at it. Get to 500, and go from there.
Yeah, for sure. That's the first step, is getting 500 and then trying to sneak into a wild card spot as the season goes on.
So yeah, that's what I gotta say about the Mets. We could transition now to the other New York team, the New York Yankees, who won their series as well.
Yeah, well, they've won both series since we last talked. They just finished up a 6-game road trip. They went 5-1 against two teams who, they just lost a series to the Guardians at home. Then they went to play the Blue Jays in Toronto. They last year were awful in Toronto. I believe they only won one game, including the playoffs. So, taking that series was important, even though the Blue Jays are not the same team they were last year when they come to the numbers and the record. But we'll get to them in a second. I'll go back to the Guardian series. They swept that series in Cleveland. They won the first game, 10 innings. They won that one 7-5. At the time, it was a very impressive game. I would say when that game was going on, it was probably the most impressive win the team's had this season. Being able to stay in there with a roughed up bullpen and winning the game 10 innings. Cody Bellinger had a great at bat, a single, scored two, I believe it was, in the 10th inning. And earlier, Paul Goldschmidt and Ryan McMahon hit home runs off Gavin Williams, who leads the American League. Well, he did at the time. I think he still does lead the American League in strikeouts. So, when Gavin Williams left the game, I believe they were winning when Gavin Williams left the game. Then the bullpen came in, blew it for them, but the Yankees stuck in. They won the game. Will Warren was the starter, and he has 9 unearned runs this year, which is quite crazy. He has the most run support for a Yankee starter, but he has 9 unearned runs. So the defense just does not help him out. In
So
that
luck
game,
is
it was
not
Jose
on his
Caballero.
side right now.
Yeah, I mean, he gets a lot of run support. We saw that yesterday. The Yankees, I believe, gave him. Yeah, no, not I believe they did give him run support, and then he ended up giving it away. But game 2 in Cleveland, Garrett Cole started. His defense didn't really help him either. Spencer Jones hit his first career home run. It was a 2-run shot in the 2nd inning, and then after the talk from the Cleveland commentator in the last series, Jazz ended up hitting a game-winning home run in the 8th inning, right in the middle of some overrated chance. That must have felt good for him. It's good to see him. He's been playing much better the last few weeks. I would say, this month he's been pretty good. I don't think the average is up there yet still, but he's getting more consistent production, home runs. When he's getting on, he's stealing the bases. He's trying to make his promise with 50-50, but that's not going to happen. So yeah, they won that game. Fernando Cruz got a 5-out save. Forgot to mention David Bednar had a 5-out win in the first game. It wasn't a save because, well, yeah, no, he got the save. He got the win. So yeah, seeing 2 of our big arms come and do that, 2 5-out saves to end the game. It's nice to see. Then you go to game 3. Carlos Rodon started 6 innings, 3 earned runs. Angel Martinez hit a home run on the second pitch of the game. It was a day game. It was just, I don't know, many Yankees fans would agree, but for me, I feel like when there's a day game the Yankees are in, especially on the road, they just seem to not perform well. It just seems the defense isn't there, the pitching isn't there. I don't know what it is. I just feel like that's how it goes. And I felt like it was one of those games. Second pitch, the Guardians up 1-0 right away, but then the Yankees took the lead in the second. And then Cleveland came back. They tied it in the 4th on Austin Hedges' double, a sac fly as well. Tied at 3, but the Yankees took the lead in the 6th inning, which was, it's another one of those situations that we were talking about in the past where they just have an inning or two where they just score a bunch of runs. They get a pitcher that pitcher comes in and they can hit against, and they just go crazy. So they scored a bunch of runs, including sac flies from Caballero, RBI double from Volpe, base hit, RBI Goldschmidt, RBI single for Caballero again, and then RBI fielder's choice for Jazz. So the Yankees ended up winning that game 8-4. That was our 6th sweep of the year. And yeah, I have a note here actually. I should have mentioned it earlier, but Ryan McMahon mentioned he hit the home run off Gavin Williams. He has not had the best year, but the interesting thing is he has 3 home runs off of really good pitchers: Jacob deGrom, Dylan Cease, and Gavin Williams. So that's quite impressive to see from a bottom of the order bat who hasn't really performed much at the plate. Pretty interesting to see that. I don't know why, and they're all also opposite fields. So that's I honestly cannot give a reason to why that is. I don't know. Honestly, it's just a really interesting stat to look at. But then we move on to the Blue Jays series. The Yankees won that one, 2 games, lost 1. First game was started by Ryan Weathers. That was the game they lost 8-5. They came into Toronto knowing the way the last season has went against the Blue Jays, especially on the road, and it looked like that was also going to continue. Another trend. Weathers only went 4.1 innings pitched. He gave up 6 earned runs. He gave up 2 homers. The Yankees were down 5-0 at one point. The offense tried to fight back. Cody Bellinger had a 2-run home run. Sac fly for Goldschmidt in the 5th. And then Trent Grisham had a 2-run single in the 6th, which he ended up getting hurt on and getting put on the injured list.
Damn.
Yeah. So that game was rough. The Yankees offense tried. They tried to fight back every time. It felt like the Blue Jays scored right away, answered back. So they ended up losing that one 8-5. But games 2 and 3, they won to take the series. They won 3-1 on Saturday. Cam Schlittler continued, being a great starter. This is his best start against the Blue Jays. I believe it was his 5th in his career, but his best against them. 7 innings, only 1 run on Okamoto home run, 7 strikeouts. When Grisham went on the injured list, it was Jason Dominguez who replaced him. He arrived, I believe, at the ballpark 2 hours before first pitch, and he ends up hitting a home run in the 4th inning to put the Yankees up. Or not, I forget if it was up or tie, but I believe it was tied, actually. Tied it after the Okamoto solo shot, so it was 1-1. And Paul Goldschmidt hit a clutch 2-run shot in the 9th inning for the lead. So, low-scoring game. They take it 3-1, clutch hitting. He hit that home run off Louis Varland, who has become the Blue Jays closer this year. He's given up 0 home runs throughout the whole year until he met Paul Goldschmidt through 37 innings pitched. So, I don't know what's gotten to Paul Goldschmidt. I mean, I don't know if you've been paying too much attention to, what's going on, with the Yankees individually, but
I haven't, but I also remember
yeah, that's understandable.
Went on he started off really, really well last year. So
yes, he did start the first half great. Yeah, well, since Judge has been out, you look at the Yankees lineup and you expect people to step up. Cody Bellinger, maybe Ben Rice, but it's been Paul Goldschmidt. Since Judge's injury on June 2nd, Paul Goldschmidt's hitting .378 with 3 homers and 12 RBI. He's looking like his MVP self, which, of course, no one should expect that to continue. But he's had an amazing start to this year, just like he did last year.
Yeah.
The Yankees signed him for $4 million, which is, obviously a steal.
Yeah, I mean, Paul Goldschmidt. I mean, you could pay him that, because he's gotten, he's getting older. He's like 39, right?
I believe he's 38. Yeah, 39, 38.
Yeah, so I mean, he's getting up there. He's an old player. I mean, but he still got Unk still got it, right? So he still got
Unk still got it. It's funny you say that specifically because some of the players call him that. I believe I forget who it was, but one of the players posted his shot. His name was Cam Schlittler, I think, on Instagram, and just wrote Unk. So they all call him that.
Yeah, I did see that. Yeah,
it's pretty funny. But yeah, I mean, he's been great, especially since Judge is out, stepping up. You need a ready bat to step up. So him doing so has been very helpful. Then you go to Sunday. The Yankees do win 8-3. Will Warren goes 4 innings, giving up 2 runs. He left in the 4th on not really in a jam, but he gave up 8 hits throughout the game, and it was because of his pitch count was up to 98. The Blue Jays are, I mentioned earlier with Bichette, I mentioned last year the way the team played. They just put the ball in play. They make you work. They might strike out, but they'll make you throw 9 pitches to strike them out. So that's the kind of team they are. So they knocked Will Warren out after giving up 2 earned runs in 4 innings. But the Yankees offense stayed in there. 2 different RBI singles for Anthony Volpe. Ali Sanchez, who was the righty catcher who they called up. I think we skipped over this because we missed an episode. But Ali Sanchez was called up as a righty catcher. Crazy situation. He was called up and J.C. Escarra was optioned down. But then the next morning, Austin Wells went on the injury list, so they had to bring Escarra back up. So they had 2 catchers. So,
damn.
Yeah, I don't think we got to talk about that. That was an interesting situation the way that went down. But I believe this was his first hit with the Yankees, an RBI double in the 2nd inning. And yeah, it was. And then he had a second hit in the 4th, which was a single. So that, I believe that made it a 3-3 game, close throughout the whole the whole game, and then in the ninth inning, the Yankees exploded again, scored 5 runs. Ben Rice this time hit a clutch 2-run shot, his 19th of the year, and Caballero followed with a 3-run shot of his own. So 2 games in a row, the Yankees were tied and scored on homers in the ninth to take the lead and walk away with it. So yeah, I mean it's impressive. The Yankees are 7-4 since Aaron Judge's injury, and they haven't really been playing terrible teams. I mean Red Sox,
Yeah, I mean,
but
the Yankees lineup is still pretty good without Judge. I mean,
yeah,
if
I mean you're
you're
missing
talented.
Judge. Yeah, you're missing Judge. You're missing Stanton. You were missing Dominguez until he just came in. Now you're missing Grisham. Um, so yeah, it's pretty impressive to see them. But yeah, I mean, like you said, first of all, I mentioned this last time when we first talked about Judge injury. They're a team right now. The way the roster is, they're a pitching first, specifically starting pitching first team. If the starters can give them, you know, 5 at least innings, of 1 or 2 runs, the offense we have enough that should be able to win the game for them. But I don't want to keep going on for too long. There's not much else to talk about. But yeah, so a 5-1 road trip for the Yankees. They come home, start a series against the White Sox tomorrow. They're 43-27, and they now have sole possession of first place in the East too.
So
Up by
yeah,
1 game.
that's another thing that I completely forgot to mention when I said anything is possible. The White Sox are leading the AL Central, and they took a series over the Braves and the Dodgers.
Yeah, they
So-
just took a series against the Dodgers for sure.
So I mean, could you tell me anything about why the White Sox have been playing so well?
Yeah, I haven't been paying too much attention to them, but I have been seeing what's been going on. It's pretty impressive. We talked about, not on here, but just ourselves. Former Savannah Banana broke up Yamamoto's no-hitter
Yeah.
for the White Sox. I mean, that's so I mean that's the kind of season they're having. They're just having a lot of not only big names just kind of show up for them, I assume. There was obviously what's his name? Murakami. He's on the injured list now, but he started off really hot in his major league career with the White Sox, coming over from Japan. So that was obviously a spark for them. But yeah, I haven't done too much research into them, but obviously they're having a great year. I believe they lead their division.
Yeah, they're
I'm not
38
wrong,
and 32,
yeah.
I believe.
Yeah, so I mean it's gonna be an interesting series to see them coming to the Bronx, especially with the Yankees playing well but still injured a little bit. See what they can do. The Yankees usually take care of the White Sox well, but they're not usually playing this well. So it's gonna be a fun series, I guess. We'll see.
Yeah, we'll see, man. So, last thing I want to talk about. So, obviously, the World Cup is currently happening. It is happening in the United States, Canada, and Mexico. I'm having a great time watching it. There's been games from in the afternoon to 12 a.m. at night. It's great. It's a great time to be a fan. It's a great time during the summer. The weather's out. New York City's lit. You had the Brazil fans in Times Square and in New York during the same time as the Knicks fans. So all this stuff happening and all these fan bases and groups happening pretty much in the same 24-hour span is pretty dope. But the one thing I want to bring up that actually has to do with which connects the two topics with baseball and the World Cup. I don't know if you saw, but a bunch of Scotland fans went to Fenway Park for a Red Sox game, and I just think it's so dope that two cultures can be intertwined during this time, because these Scotland fans took over a section at Fenway Park and basically were chanting and singing the whole game. They brought almost like a football WBC atmosphere to Fenway Park, and of course the Red Sox lost, but I just want to talk about that and ask you how you felt about that, because I just think it's really cool how all these people from all different parts of the world are coming to the U.S. and getting a taste of what's cool about this country. What are the cool things that we have here.
Yeah, I mean that's really cool. I haven't heard about that. That's it's cool. Of course, they probably chose Fenway because it was either in their path or because it's a historical stadium. But of course, yeah, the Red Sox, that probably wasn't the best team to try and go root for.
Well, their first game against Haiti was at Gillette Stadium,
Yeah,
so
so I assume
they.
we should do in their path. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. So yeah, it's cool. I was actually talking about that to somebody else. We keep seeing all these tourists who are over here. Um, just seeing what the country's about, seeing all the different things that we have to offer, and I haven't seen anyone. I've seen people go to Bucky's. I've seen people go to college
Yeah,
stadiums for the games. I've seen, just all these things. I haven't seen anyone until now. You just said that go to baseball games, but specifically minor league baseball games. I feel like they would really love that. I always have fun going to those. I just feel like that's something that they're all over the country, so a lot of these
yeah,
fans should, I'm sure no one's listening in that situation, but if they are, I suggest you just check out a minor league baseball stadium on your way, uh, around your trip around the country. So that's pretty cool.
yeah.
It's a pretty cool story. Yeah, I didn't know about that.
Yeah, seeing Scotland fans, I mean, they're already a great fan base. I mean, to put in perspective, I mean, this is their first World Cup in almost 30 years. So, their fans are craving to be here. So the fact that, they're bringing their culture and they're bringing their energy, walking down the streets of Boston, going into Fenway Park, it's really dope. It's really cool to see, all these people getting a taste of the stadiums, which I think it's hilarious how you have people, tourists glazing like MetLife Stadium when
Yeah, the switch up is crazy.
it's insane when you consider all like obviously you and me are Jets and Giants fans, so like people talk about MetLife Stadium like it's King Von. So to
hmm
see
Yeah,
people, glaze MetLife Stadium and praise MetLife Stadium as like this like gigantic like specimen of a stadium, I think it's just really funny to me when you consider, all the hate that MetLife Stadium gets and the fact that it's considered one of probably the worst NFL stadium.
yeah. Not even hate from fans in America of the NFL or whatever, but just the hate it was getting, and not even just MetLife and not MetLife itself, but just all the stadiums. They were getting so much hate for the last like year about
Yeah.
a lot of people saying the stadiums aren't good, they don't deserve the World Cup. Now they're here and they're awestruck.
Unfortunately, and I hate to bring it up, I do think politics have really affected people's perception of what is in the United States and what has been offered in the United States. But what's beautiful about the World Cup is that you have all these cultures and all these different people. And the U.S. already has a lot of big ethnic groups. So seeing all these people mix and connect and learn about it, I think there's a lot of people who were expecting a lot different from the United States, and they quite frankly were probably told something else by media, or had a different perception about it. It might be unsafe, stuff like that. But the vibes have been great. I mean, there's always problems with the World Cup. I think every World Cup there's always been some kind of drama. But when the games go on and the energy is there, like it's awesome, dude. I mean, you had Mexico fans, playing Gangnam Style for South Korea. I think that was hilarious. Bringing back Gangnam Style in the
That was funny.
big 2026. It's a lot of fun. I think that's what's beautiful about the World Cup. I don't think there's a single tournament or competition in any sport that does what the World Cup does, and it's awesome. And it's every 4 years, so I think that's what makes it a lot more special.
Yeah, the World Cup is special. I mean, even as myself, not being a huge fan of soccer, I can still acknowledge that. Obviously, it's the most played sport all around the world. I mean, you can look at the sports that we have here; they're not played in every other country like soccer is. So, the fact that they have a tournament where every country can get together every 4 years, of course, it's going to be, one of the biggest things in sports every time it comes around. So it's cool that it's here and we get to, kind of firsthand see people come here and react to what it's like.
Yeah, it's really awesome. I really am excited for the rest of the tournament. There's actually a game going on right now, so it's a great time to be a fan. It's really fun. I mean, it's great. I'm gonna have a lot of fun watching the rest of this tournament. I hope Argentina go back to back. So, but I think that will do it. That will be our longest episode that we've ever done. So, I
Yeah,
mean,
a lot.
but there was, to be fair, I mean, there was a lot that happened this week. This week, I think, seriously, like one of the best weeks I've ever had as a sports fan. Um, this probably beats the week where the Mets won the LDS and then Barca won't beat Real Madrid and Bayern in the same week. So that all happened in the same week. This probably beats that. There's been so much going on here. There's been so much going on in New York City. This time, really just New York City. I mean, I've never seen a city like truly like be like a whole party, man. Like the World Cup and the Knicks winning the finals in the same day. I mean, New York City's already fun on its own. Like I've been to New York City to do things, whether it's going to Central Park, whether it's going to the museum, whether it's going to a Mets game. That's probably the most fun I've had in New York City in the like ever. It just was such a great experience, and I'm glad I took the opportunity to be part of it.
Yeah, I mean, it's alive. There's a lot going on. A lot to celebrate too, especially in the sports world.
So that will do it on the Shadow Episode podcast. We will do the next series. I'm gonna make sure we do the next series for both our teams. We're gonna try to be more consistent, guys. Summer's here. It's gonna be a lot of fun. There's gonna be a lot of things going on. Hopefully, maybe, just maybe, the Mets could give me a reason to watch in the summer. So the rest of the summer. So with that being said, that will do it on this episode of the podcast. You're currently listening to Ryan Grameyer and Dylan Lotez, and we will see you in the next episode. So peace out.